Yes, I am. Hey, folks, this is I guess, a impromptu live stream. I will just. Hey, folks, this is just checking my volume. Nothing too bushcrafty. I'm gonna start that sentence again. Okay, take two. Nothing too bushcrafty this time. I felt the need to do a little video because today, November 10th, is the 100th anniversary of Canada's victory at Passchendaele in the First World War. It was an integral part of the second or third Battle of Ypres, I think third. And it was a hard slog for not only Canada, but the rest of the Commonwealth. You know, the British, the South Africans at that point, the Anzac, well, the Australians and New Zealanders. And, you know, we don't really see war that way anymore. You know, nowadays wars, I mean, we almost see them we do see them real time in some cases, but it's like World War One was the last time that you'd have that sort of holdover of 17th and 18th century warfare, where you line your guys up and they line their guys up, and you pound each other. You know, now it's much more. You know, guerrilla warfare is where today's warfare comes from, in a much more real fashion. You know. But, you know, being Canadian, Passchendaele is a big thing because it was sort of, it took a lot of guys. Warfare, I'm not proud to say, is something that Canada is very, very good at. We were very good at World War One. We were very good at World War Two. Kind of held our own in Korea, but I mean, I say I'm not really proud of that because we sell ourselves as a peacemaking country, and we have been since then. And there is a belief here in Canada that I kind of share, that the First World War was Canada's war of independence. Because what happened directly after, well, if we hadn't been so bloody good at it, what happened after the war would probably have been very different. But as it was, Canadian Prime Minister Borden took Canada's, you know, the fact that we punched way above our weight, and used that to suggest to the British that the rest of the Commonwealth countries, the medium powers at the very least, would have their own signing power on, you know, agreements and treaties from that point, you know, leading right up to the formation of the League of Nations, and of course for the rest of history. So it's a big thing. The reason I don't like calling it, let's say, I won't say that it wasn't our war of independence, but that it was an important step towards our independence, our change from a dominion to a full country. Because at the end of the day, we kind of negotiated the rest of the way. But anyways, I just, I felt, you know, on the 100th anniversary, I wanted to commemorate that. Tomorrow is Remembrance Day, which is a day when, you know, we sort of, you know, at 11:11, you have a minute of silence for the war dead. But I kind of feel that what you should do, well, in this country, at any rate, if you're Canadian, take your moment of silence, sure. But follow that up with a letter to your MP saying, let's give our vets a better deal. I said this on Facebook today, and it was fairly well received because our Prime Minister, he makes us look very good, but he's really, here. Sorry, I just noticed there's some dust in my vise here. Shit. I mean, shoot. Oh, that wasn't the smartest thing I've ever done. Anyway, you know, our vets are not getting a good shake, and I kind of don't think that the vets in some countries these days are not getting a very good shake. And it's all great to a moment of silence and get a little weepy as they play taps or something. But man, follow it up with some action. Spending $2 on a poppy is great, but our vets need a better deal. They need more care. They need all kinds of things that they're not getting. Because you know what? These people give up a lot to serve this country. And I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, there's an army man. He's a hero. I calling someone a hero automatically because they happen to wear a uniform, I think, is dehumanizing. You're reducing that person to the uniform they're wearing. And I think it's unfair. They're not all heroes. A hero is someone who pulls a child from a burning car, or someone who, ends up with the Victoria Cross because he saved his comrades, with no regard for his own safety, or, a fireman who, what I'm saying? Like, to me, a hero is a very specific thing. It's someone who does something great. And doing a job that the rest of us may not be brave enough to do is not enough. It's impressive. I support our troops, even though I don't support the business decisions that sometimes cause our countries to throw our youth into a meat grinder. I respect someone who does that job. I think the whole, you're a hero thing is dehumanizing and unfair. But I didn't mean to, rage on about that. It's just doing a little commemorative video to, to mark the occasion. And it's funny that it's 100 years ago, because a century is a really long time, but when I was younger, there were World War I vets around, And in not that long, there won't be any World War II vets around. And it's like any of us living at right now have a connection in that we know people who fought in these huge, like, seminal, world-changing wars. World War I ended empires. It completely rewrote, the narrative of Europe. It ended the imperial age in Europe. It leveled British society in a massive way. Some would say that isn't finished yet, but it really, really did. It changed things here in Canada hugely. When the States finally came in, I imagine there were some changes going on down there as well. But, like, we don't think of these things because we've just lived in the world that these events have given us, for better or for worse, right? World War I wasn't as cut and dried as World War II was. Second World War, you had some very bad guys doing some very bad things. And at the end of the day, that made it very easy to demonize the enemy and just... The First World War, everyone kind of got dragged into almost against their will, because there was such a complex web of treaties and agreements and, that, which, by the way, is very similar to the arrangement we have right now, that, like, if someone just blew and knocked this pillar over, everything collapsed into war, and that's exactly what happened. Bang, one shot, and suddenly the entire continent is at war. And by extension, because British Empire, most of the world. I will do an aside here. I made this tea at 3:30 this afternoon. It is currently 9:30 and it's still hot. So this is not a paid endorsement, but I think I'm going to stick with this brand from now on in. Zoji Rushi. Zoji Rushi. Tea's a good drink. Where was I? Oh yeah, so I mean, like, a lot a lot of the status of women came from that as well, in very specific ways. In that, when all the men were off getting ground into hamburger meat, women were doing all the factory jobs, most of the factory jobs, and this, that, and the other. And you can't take that away once the men come back, especially because a whole lot less men come back than left. There was another aside that I learned while listening to a historian on the radio. If something about the First World War comes on, I listen, because I'm kind of a geek about it. I used to work, when I was working at Reader's Digest, one of the other editors had a history degree, and his thing was World War II. And that was also very interesting. And my two favorite aircraft of all time, the Lancaster bomber and the Spitfire, were World War II things. But as a good Canadian, who kind of thinks that the First World War was a major step towards our status as an independent nation, I'm more focused on the First World War. Anyways, so I was listening to a panel discussion on the CBC a few months ago, and there were 4 historians on, and one of them mentioned that the Nurses Corps in the Canadian Armed Forces, unlike the other nations, those ranks on their shoulders were real. It wasn't like you're an honorary lieutenant. In the Canadian Nursing Corps, that lieutenant could order around the soldiers she was caring for, or the stretcher bearers, because she was an actual lieutenant or an actual captain or an actual major. And that's a different status there, because in the other countries, those ranks were like a nurse is a lieutenant, but it wasn't real. Whereas in the Canadian Nursing Corps, it was. Let's have a drink to the Ross rifle, the much maligned, I'm tired, guys, the much maligned Ross rifle. Engineering marvel that if you didn't put the bolt together properly when you were cleaning it, shot back into your eye because it was a straight pull. But you really had to not be putting it together right. It gets a bad rap, but it was a better rifle than that. The problem with the Ross was that the tolerances were too tight for the mud in a European, in trench warfare. There was muck into everything. The Lee Enfield, the tolerances weren't nearly as tight, so it could operate in a much dirtier state. Whereas the Ross, it shot straighter and further and blah, 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 but if it got a little dirty, it jammed up good. So what you ended up with on the Canadian side was guys dropping the Ross whenever they walked past a dead British dude and picked up his Lee Enfield, because they both shot .303 Brit. And eventually the Army switched over wholesale to the Lee Enfield, which is still probably my favorite rifle. But snipers kept the Ross because it was a much better rifle in terms of accuracy and distance and stuff. But yeah, I don't know how I got mixed up in this. Anyways, it's funny because I'm not a war geek very much. I'm not anti-soldier either. As I said before, this hero thing irritates me vastly, but I'm not anti-soldier. I support, the troops themselves. The decisions that send them places drive me crazy, but I support people who are doing a good job, doing rough things that I don't do. And there are 2 active service people in my family, and they're both fine people. So, and maybe if I didn't have actual active service people in my family, maybe I would fall for this whole automatic hero thing. I don't know. But anytime we're talking about people, it's not as cut and dried as that, Nobody, by which I mean virtually nobody's fundamentally evil. And nobody has no evil in them, We're so much more complex than that. I think we all deserve to be more than some arbitrary label slapped on us because of the badge on our arm. It's got a little more modeling than I was hoping for it to. Oh, I just noticed that people are actually... Sorry, yeah, I know, you love it when I poke the screen, right? I'm just saying. Oh, that was Simone. Seen Dunkirk. No, not yet, but I do want to see it because I don't see a lot of stuff these days because my wife is working out of town, so I'm a single dad until, well, it was supposed to be until December 21st, but apparently she might be getting an extension until January or... But anyways, so I don't do much. You know, that's why I'm not doing very many videos. My new job is intellectually exhausting. I don't mean that as a complaint, by the way. I mean that as in, like, by the time I get the squirt to bed, you know, I sit down at my editing computer and I can't do it. I've got 2.5 videos sitting there waiting to be edited together, and you know. But yeah, I want to see Dunkirk. I've heard that it's been kind of whitewashed, which is, you know, exhausting on a different level at this point. Because there were troops from, like, you know, India and stuff like that. There were non-white Commonwealth troops there, like lots of them. So I find that people who make movies these days, and this hurts to say because I did go to school to make movies, but filmmakers, they go for the simplest answer all the time, you know? Which is how you ended up with Scarlett Johansson playing the Major in Ghost in the Shell. I have no problem with Scarlett. She's great looking and she can act, but I do think that role was clearly destined for someone Japanese. Paul's on. Paul? I don't get to see you often enough, man. I was just getting maudlin about Passchendaele, dude. Has anyone who's watching right now seen Passchendaele, the Canadian movie? X and Bond. I also like Chris Nolan's movies. I think he's a very able filmmaker. Excuse me. I just totally stabbed myself with my poppy. Ow. Yeah, Paul. Okay. Fair enough. So Paul's not on for very long. I'm just looking back over. Oh, I've got a computer here. Hold on. I'll just look over here for new. Hold potentially inappropriate message for no. Yeah, I'll see Dunkirk just for the Spitfire scene. One of my grandpas was on the ground in Europe in the Canadian Army, but my other grandpa was in the Royal Canadian Air Force, teaching. He was in England, instructing Lancaster crew. So aside from the fact that the Lancaster I think is gorgeous, there's a sort of a quasi-family connection there. Just seeing if I have anything to show you guys. Not really. I was down here sharpening, which is why I'm in the workshop. And I can't wait to get to... Like I was telling you guys, I just sort of come home and fall into a zombie state, but I still have plans to get this all done up for my daughter. That's going to be a video or two. I cannot wait to get on this. I'm just so tired. Another thing... I had it like in my head a second ago. Oh yeah, Paul's kids are in the Scouts. When I was in the Cadets, I used to do the parade every year. I used to like it because at our oh Mike, okay, hold on. Well, I haven't done anything with it yet. What I liked about Remembrance Day was I was in Here, Mike. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I can't wait to get started. My squadron was number 1 West Montreal, the oldest squadron in Canada. And we met at the Royal Montreal Regiment. Now, there was an Army Cadet regiment there. There was the RMR. At that point, there was the Communications Squadron in the Canadian Forces that also met there. And there was another Air Cadet Squadron from somewhere in the vicinity that for Remembrance Day would go there as well. And the parade would start on the parade square inside the building. And, you know, by the left, quick, march. And everyone's bam, bam, bam. And then we would all sort of go out the front door and then through the streets of Westmount to the cenotaph. I loved that day because instead of just my little squadron, because our squadron at that point was small, it was like under 40 cadets, you know. It felt like we were really part of the military sort of reality of Canada, you know. There was a band, there were flags, there was a drum corps, as well as the band. There were 3 cadet units and, you know, 2 armed forces units. And there's a feeling you get when everyone is on the same foot that I haven't had since, you know. Yeah, that was a good point in my life, because I think I've told you guys that I joined the cadets because I was too shy to speak at a party. You could ask me a direct question and I wouldn't even be able to answer, you know. And the reasons for that I'm not going to go into on YouTube, but like, I joined the cadets specifically to get that kicked out of me, you know. And so even though I'm not sort of a rah flag waving, saber rattling type of dude. Okay. Though I'm not like a jingoist, I'm always gonna have good memories of that uniform, and I'll always sort of like an armory, you know. I've been to a bunch of them back when I was in cadets, when we'd visit other units, or, you know, I have family that was, I no longer have family that is, but I used to have family in the Black Watch. So I've been in there, and also my band being an Irish band, we used to play the New Year's party at the Black Watch Regiment every year for the Black Watch Association, pipes and drums, but the regiment itself, some of the officers would go to the party. You know, I used to spend my summers on Canadian Forces bases because of that, and part of me misses that. I tried to join the Navy right out of high school. My health just isn't good enough, and I lied about it. I think, if I remember, I mean, just out of high school was a long time ago. That was over half my life ago. I don't remember why I didn't end up getting in, but anyway, it had something to do with that. I don't remember. I do wonder what my life would have been like if I'd been, you know, if I had joined the Naval Reserve. Maybe it wouldn't have been any different. I don't know. You know, you never know. I was gonna buy myself a fancy beer for this, but I forgot. I don't have a brain right now, man. It was a long day at work. I'm thinking I'm gonna start. You know, when I start doing my outdoors videos in spring, maybe I'll bring like one fancy beer every video, every 2, kind of like Joe does. I have. I don't know if any of you guys use Untapped, that mobile app where you can sort of keep track of all the fancy beer you've tried and whether or not you liked it. I'm just seeing if there are any messages. But if any of you guys use Untapped, then after this video I'm gonna put it public, And just drop me a message down below. Give me your untapped name, and I'll friend you over there. Yeah, Mike, fancy beer is a must. Although what I noticed is a lot of guys, and Joe too, everyone seems to really like IPAs, and I've only ever tried 2 IPAs that I've liked. Am I alone in this? Like, am I just wrong for not loving the IPA magic? I just keep seeing dust everywhere. Sorry, guys. Just taking a look. You haven't even heard of Untapped? It's a weird spelling. I'm going to write it, and then you can go and find it on the App Store, and then we can keep track of each other's fancy beeritude. I'm trying not to shake the table too much because the camera's on it. I think I might have one P too many, but it's like it doesn't have the E in the Untapped. I think that's it. I'll put it in the show notes after I'm done, and I edit the show notes and everything. I'll write it down in there. Not a paid endorsement. Everyone on YouTube land, relax. There, I've said it. Not a paid endorsement, and I didn't. That wasn't a paid endorsement either when I showed the logo of my Zojirushi fabulous thermosy thing. Backwards again. Oh, Apple, why do you break my heart? Actually, this isn't an Apple app. I'm going to say that again. Actually, this isn't an Apple app. It's a third-party app called something. So I wonder if it maybe not the camera, maybe it's the app. It's very frustrating. I'm really, really bugged by this. Anyway. Where was I? Oh yeah. So has anyone seen Passchendaele? I didn't see I mean the movie. I don't mean has anyone stood on the sacred land. Simone was only here briefly. Simone also has a new job. Feels good. Simone and I are both working. Yeah, Paul Gross. Yeah. What did you think of it? If you guys are hearing creaking and stuff, it's because the missus and my daughter are watching. We unfolded the hide-a-bed, and they're watching a movie right above us, and it's a scrappy old hide-a-bed. So every time someone moves on it, creak. So I don't know if you guys are hearing it, but I sure am. Yeah, you liked it. Exenbaum says he liked Passchendaele. I did too. Paul Gross, I like and I don't like. Kind of depends on the movie. Oh, what's her name? The girl, the actress who played opposite him. I really like her. What the hell's her name? Carolyn Deverness. He was way too much older than Carolyn Deverness for that love thing to. I mean, let's face it. There's 10 years between me and the missus, but like I didn't. Maybe I'm not being fair. I'm just keeping an eye. I don't know why I keep looking at the messages on that screen when I've got a screen right here. Where was I? But yeah, I liked Paul Gross in that film. I liked Carolyn Deverness in that film as well. I think she's a pretty good actress. I also think she's fabulous looking. And I don't feel bad saying that. The acting profession you know, being good looking is part of the package. You know, it's part of getting hired for roles. So the fact that she's great looking and can act, I don't feel bad for referencing the great looking, no matter what kind of political reality we're in right now. That made me sound really old, because I'm not that crotchety. I'm not these kids these days or anything, but oh no, I'm coming to the end of my tea. The reason I liked Passchendaele is because Canada needs to get better at Hollywoodizing its exploits. Because, as I said earlier, we were very good in that war. We were very good in the next war. You know, at D-Day, you know, the Canadian Army was the only one to hit its marks. Then it did a left turn and got the Americans out of their mess. But I mean, we are so bad at getting the story of that stuff out there that, you know, nobody even blinks when we're not part of the narrative. You know, when people are watching movies or playing games or like all this stuff, like in one of the, I think it was a Call of Duty or a Medal of Honor, one of those where, you know, it's a a first person shooter, and you go through certain some of the theaters in the Second World War, and like I think one of them was a Polish tank battalion, and of course there was an American regiment, and I think 2 British, and there was a Canadian. And typical Canucks, right? Yeah, there's a Canadian. I don't believe it. When in reality, there should always be a Canadian, because we were in the war from the beginning to the end. Fought everywhere and really well, and made massive differences almost wherever they went. So there should always be a Canadian regiment in the movie somewhere, or in the blah, and you know. But we never toot our own horn. So when a film like Passchendaele comes out, I feel like even if it was getting lousy reviews, I still would have felt like I had to see it to reward Paul Gross for doing that. It's because like you know, we don't feel that it's tasteful or something to, you know, to toot our own horn. And I'm not someone who loves war. You know, I'm not someone who thinks that fighting over oil is a good idea. You know. But because, you know, this country forged itself in those 2 wars more than in any other conflict, I find. Yeah, more than any other. Because I was going to say, like, you know, War of 1812, but nobody won that. You know, it was a stupid little war that everyone sort of went into and then got, you know, everyone just picked up their ball and went home. So, so that's, no, that doesn't count. I'm just keeping track. The La Defensa raid. Oh, the Red Devils. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's funny. I was just sort of thinking back to the reason I started this video, that, you know, 100 years ago today was the end of Passchendaele. Was our victory at Passchendaele. It's funny how I know a fair amount about hunting rifles because I go hunting with my father-in-law. I keep seeing dust, like sawdust everywhere, and I just... one thing I definitely noticed, and I'm not the first person to say this, but it's funny how when a generation goes to war and then comes back, it changes what the hunting rifles look like. You know, like the First and Second World War really drove the change in North American hunting from the lever action you know, well, or the musket even earlier, but I mean, let's face it, by the time war comes around, changed it from the lever action to the bolt action. And especially in like the Second World War, suddenly you had like semi-automatic, you know, 30-06s, right? Because of the M1 Garand changed what that generation's soldiers thought of when they thought of rifles, you know. And of late, wars in the Middle East and stuff have changed in the States, because let's face it, up here in Canada, you're never going to hunt with an AR. But, you know, Remington's got that sort of that iconic hunting AR style. Well, it's an AR. That's all camo, and like a lot of sports rifle manufacturers are making AR based hunting rifles now. And like, to me, I don't love the AR. You know, I like wood. I like a bolt action. I would really like a lever, like a 30-30 lever, but I don't love guns enough to sort of collect them or, you know, start saving towards something. But, you know, with something like that, as with axes or knives, especially knives, if I'm not going to use it, I'm not going to keep it, you know. So I don't want to have a gun rack with 8 rifles that I never touch in it. But I do like the historical connection that a 30-30 lever has, you know, in this country, and of course in the States. Yeah, it's done. Another one down. I got tea on my nose. Anyways, this conversation's gotten a lot more warlike than I really wanted it to get. But anyway. Oh, one thing I did want to mention. So I got dinged by the whole adpocalypse thing with my last video. It wasn't permanent because I wrote a very polite email about it. But you know how I've been sort of hinting at maybe doing the Patreon thing or whatever. I'm actively developing that now because I have to insulate myself from the next time YouTube decides to demonetize my video when it goes up. Because here's the thing. They demonetized my video. I clicked on the whatever it is, the toggle or whatever, to have a manual review. But because I don't get 1,000 eyes on my video within a 7-day period, I don't activate that mechanism. They don't do it if you don't get at least 1,000 views within 7 days. So I wrote them the email, and then I guess someone decided I was worth it because they remonetized my video. They didn't answer my email, but they remonetized the video. But here's the thing: by the time it takes, you've already peaked on your views. Forgotten Weapons, yeah, yes. By the way, I watch him a lot. Yeah, I can't afford any of the stuff he talks about because you know he does these videos from like auction houses, right? But yeah, I've seen some really cool stuff on his channel. So where was I? Yeah, so by the time I'm remonetized, I've already hit peak views, and it's coming down the other side again. So I have to insulate myself from that. So I'm gonna do a Patreon thing. I think I know how I'm gonna do it. Because as I've said before, I don't want anyone to feel punished for not doing it. I want it to be an optional thing. So I'm coming up with little extras to give those people who opt for it rather than, you know, taking anything away. And like some people let their patrons see their videos a week before and stuff, and I'm not gonna do that. Like I don't want it to affect non-patrons at all. Ooh, low battery. Hold on. Excuse me. Which plug is the right plug? This plug. This plug right here. Sorry, folks. I'll be right back. I'm just powering up the Fune. Are we powering up? Is that working? No. Sorry. Let me try it again. Okay, I think that's good. If I suddenly disappear, I wasn't rage quitting. It's because I'm not actually recharging my phone. Where was I? Yeah, I think it's going to be like a two-tiered thing. It's going to be very, very simple. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to push you guys into it, Boiler Room Radio, I'm 5x5. Good. Nice. Hi, by the way. Boiler Room Radio is here. There was something else I wanted to say, but I don't bloody remember. Jesus, what was it? Look for a video. I just got this. I got this specifically because of Zed Outdoors and his buddy Mark. Sat on those. Are you guys watching Zed's shelter build series? Because I'm just loving it. I love that guy. But I talked about him in the last video, so I'm in the last live stream. So I'm not going to get too. I'm not going to go too far down that. But anyone who's not watching, definitely give it a look. His latest video is like a good 3 hours though. They built a not Zed and Mark, but one of Zed's guests built a shave horse. I'm going to build a shave horse. Maybe this summer. I would make make my spoon carving a little simpler when in the rough carving stage, and I've been sort of trying to get around to carving an axe handle, and that would make it much easier, because like what I've got right here is a temporary workbench that I built that I'm going to use to build my workbench, but I don't have anything that I can, like, this has a vise on it, but if I really reef on something, the bench goes over, So a shave horse, I'll just, well, you've all seen it, right? You sit on it and it doesn't really move. So I'm gonna try to build one this summer. Getting this handle from shoot, what's his name? East Coast Lumberjack, I think. This was handmade, with a draw knife, and then he probably sanded it. No, he didn't sand it. He used a rasp because it still got the rasp marks all over. I don't know if you can see that. No, probably not, eh? Wait, let's see if I can. Can you see the rasp marks? Yeah, just a little bit, eh? The light in here is garbage. At some point I'm going to change the lights. So tired of the lighting in here. I'm so tired of not having a real workshop to sit at. Like, set up full time the way I want it, and just, because what I'll do is I'll set up a corner like Wood by Right has, right? It's just a permanent corner with lights, simple lights. I'll buy cheap ass aperture lights. Aperture's got some very expensive stuff, but like just cheap lights, but something that I'll have a very basic place that I'm not having to build up and tear down every time I want to shoot something, But anyway, just taking a look at the messages. Sorry, guys. I told you that the new job is really wrecking me, right? But I'm still going to do it because it feels so good to be actually participating in the bill paying. And also, I may make enough that I'll be able to start replacing the... I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to make enough that I'll be able to start replacing the camera gear that's gone down on me. Like, I think, you know, for the next little while, I just have to get back on my feet monetarily, you know. You guys ever seen one of these? It's an adjustable auger bit. Like, I just got this when it was given to me, so I can't wait to try that out. The reason I've got that is because I've created the top for my workbench. I just need some time to build the legs and all the rest of it. But my buddy Robin came over. He actually brought me the wood. There's a video about the beginning of the workbench that I will edit at some point when I've got some time. But for the top, what we did was we kijijid, Robin kijijid, because as I said earlier in the video, I don't do anything until my wife is home from that job. Right now, I literally do nothing. I get to school just in time to pick up the squirt before they start charging me, and then we come home, and then I put her to bed, and I fall asleep. But anyways, on the weekend, we cut and thickness planed. He brought me 2 8-foot 3-inch slabs of pine, still with like the live edge on, full of wormholes, but I'm just gonna fill those with epoxy, you know. You say this looks like a Stanley boiler room? I don't know. I've been looking for a name, you know, because I know that a bunch of companies did. It's funny because, like, that's not like that doesn't look like a carpenter's brace bit to me. That looks like you just stick it into a modern drill, you know. But I do have some stuff in the garage, unfortunately. But I've got some stuff for. Is my brace on the screen? Yeah, right there. I've got some bits for that. Man, the light in here is blowing my hand out completely. Sorry, guys. But I don't know if I don't know if this is a Stanley because there's no name on it. Strangely. Yeah, the other bits are in the garage. One thing I do have is a bunch of Mastercraft Forstner bits. And I'll tell you one thing. Since trying the... Well, I'm missing one. This is another thing I didn't pay for. Since trying the Forstner bit, I'm never going back to those damn... What are they? Spoon bits? Spade bit? What are they called? You know, those... The ones that everyone's got? I think they're called spoon bits. Never going back to those. It's a whole different world. Absolutely a whole different world. Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do down here. Oh, hey, is Paul Bakima still on? If you're still around, wave a hand or say something in the chat or something. The reason I'm asking is because Paul, he ordered a bunch of stuff from, I think, a Finnish army surplus, like an online army surplus site, and I want to hear what, you know, his few month later report on how good the stuff is holding up. Oh, he's still here. Yeah. So that purchase you made from that army surplus website that I can never remember how to pronounce. That's the one. Yeah. Verustakala. I don't know how to pronounce that because I'm not Finnish. But when the stuff arrived, was it in good condition? Because I mean, it's all used, right? It's all surplus. I want to know how it's been holding up, and like, because all I saw was the Instagrammage when the stuff came. And like, remember last time we talked about that place? I didn't have a real job yet. Now that I do, I may sneak in a little purchase. TOGR? Oh, Paul, you've got to. I can't wait to see what you've got planned. Paul says the stuff is fine. Swedish Flecktarn jacket and pants in very good condition. Waiting for a parody vid for Lars. Oh, the outdoor gear review. Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, the thing, Bomb, is that when Paul made his order, it's like it seemed almost too good to be true. Like even with the shipping and everything, considering what I have to pay shipping. That made no sense. Let me start that again. Considering what I have to pay on shipping when something comes from just like the U.S., the deal on this stuff coming from Finland it seemed out of whack to me. You know? Yeah, $15 Canadian flat. What? Well, I can imagine it would be super cheap to Sweden. You're practically right next to them. In fact, you're right next to them. Hold on. Norway, Finland. Okay, so you're not like directly next to them, but you know. Wait, are you? No, you don't share a border with them, right? I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember. You know, like I see Norway and Finland, and Denmark and Iceland, and I'm just for like a country I'm so desperate to see. I'm embarrassed that I can't place Sweden in the, you know. Right. The border's up at the Arctic. Yeah. Now yeah. It's funny. I wasn't seeing that shape. Paul Bakima says that that site's Instagram account and product. Yeah, their product descriptions are funny as hell. Short ferry ride from Stockholm to Finland across the Baltic Sea. Ooh, 6 hours. I would take that ride. Yeah, I would totally take that ride. I like boats. I like ferries. I have a lot of really warm memories of the old BC ferries. I remember that they changed them out for these new ones that were made in like Germany or something that have all kinds of problems. But like the old BC ferries that I remember from like whatever 20 or 30 years ago, I've got some really warm memories, man. I used to love taking that ride across to Vancouver Island. Yeah, the Fast Cats, that's it. Yeah, exactly. It's funny, like when you have that big a financial error, it's like you gotta wonder who the hell was asleep at the switch on this one, like nobody does studies before spending the money or something, makes no sense. Makes no sense to me at all. But I remember those old BC ferries. I used to love that trip. And like I was young enough and unhappy enough in my Montreal life that taking that trip, even though it was kind of a short ferry ride, standing on the deck of that ferry gave me a real feeling of freedom that I almost never got to live, back here. Because I lived for like 15 years. I lived part-time in Vancouver, part-time in Montreal, thanks to the magic of divorce, right? Like I went to school in Montreal, then the day after school was out, boom, I was on a plane. and then I'd come back for school again. And even though Vancouver took up less of the year, I feel like I did more of my growing up there, because the whole time I was in school, I had no friends, and I hated life, and I lived inside myself. And when I was in BC, I lived in the forest and on the beach. You know, and so it was like there were two completely different Jessies. And so a lot of the things that sort of give me that old twist are things that remind me of those days. You know, like the smell of that dirty fishy smell you get at the side of the water. Like in Vancouver, you get it along along the Burrard Inlet. Right where the sea bus dock is. I don't know how many of you have even been to Vancouver. I'm probably just talking bull to some of you guys, but I mean, like certain smells remind me of I guess a happier time, you know. And also, probably my favorite Indigenous art is the Haida, specifically the Haida carving style and printing style. Like even today, you know, I will know that I have financially made it when I can walk into an art gallery, like say the Spirit Wrestler, or Wicked Inish or something in Gastown, and say, I want that mask, or I want that sculpture, or that print. Not, wow, I like that, but I want that. Like if I ever win a lottery, that's how I'm going to celebrate. Well, first I'm going to get rid of my freaking car and get something that works. But I mean, I'm going to fly over there. I'm going to walk into one of those galleries, and I'm going to buy. Like, I'm not going to be ostentatious. I'm not going to buy, something by one of the big names, because I'd have to win 2 lottery tickets. But, you know, walk in and buy something like real traditional. None of the sort of the new wave kind of more modern stuff. No, man, straight up trad. Ever drive through Port Alberni when it was a logging town? No, I never did. But if you're going to Uber for me, let's go. Baum lived in Victoria for a year and a half. My sister in the Air Force, she lives in Victoria. So it's such a nice little town, except when I'm digging out 3 feet of snow here in February so I can get my car onto the road, and I know that she's tending flowers in her backyard, I do feel a little twinge of anger. You know. Oh, Paul, you're right. Did they go back to the old ferries? Because I remember that the new ones caused a whole ruckus, and like they couldn't bring them up to the speeds that they were capable of because of all the mess. But did they just scrap them or sell them off and go back to the old ferries? Those beautiful old ferries that I love so well. They sold them, yeah, okay. Oh, Paul, your first jobs were at CFB Esquimalt. Okay. Yeah. They made that weird wake, that huge wake, and they sold them at a huge loss, right? Oh, for like 2 million? Yeah, they cost a lot more than that. So Austin to Schwartz Bay. Okay, yeah, that's a bigger route. I'm just trying to visualize that route. Yeah, I miss. It's funny the stuff that I miss about that province. You know, where my dad lives now is in the interior, in the south, down near the American border in Penticton, and And it's a whole different BC than I grew up getting used to, but I'm kind of enchanted by it. You know, like there's a little pocket desert down there, and there was this one trip that I took out with the missus, where we visited my fiddler in Calgary, and then went on to see my dad's place. And I hadn't been to my dad's place in the interior yet, in the Okanagan yet, you know. The previous time I'd gone out there was to introduce him to the missus, and he still lived in North Van at that point. But anyway, so on this trip, when we hit Calgary, we did a day trip out to Drumheller, and then when I was visiting my dad, we went around and stuff, and like pocket desert, and I had never been in a desert of any description in my life before then. And so Paul's floated the Scott Canal. Yeah. It's a long trip, but a lot of people have done it. Apparently it's worth it. I haven't done it yet, but I think I will. But so yeah, like I was enchanted by this landscape and this dry, hot area. It was so different from what I was used to out on the coast, you know. But man, I really liked it. I did one of my early videos out there. Actually, I did the one on the Ponderosa pine, because I was so enchanted by the Ponderosa pine, because it's so different from any pine that grows here in Quebec. So different. And it's got like, there's a fire cycle in the Ponderosa pine's life cycle. You know, it needs the occasional brush fire to come through, you know, just to keep it healthy. And there's all kinds of stuff I read about that tree. But you know, it's funny looking back at those old videos. Like, I'm a pretty awkward guy, okay? Like even on my videos now, I find that like while I'm editing, I'm like, oh God, be more like Philip DeFranco, you know, or. But back then, jeez, it's like, I watched my very first video a few days ago just to sort of remind myself of my humility. And it's like, for so many of my videos, I'm just so stilted and obviously uncomfortable in front of the camera. And I just, man, I've come a long way. I've got a long way to go, but I've come a long way. You know? One thing I don't want to change, no matter what, is I don't want to start scripting what I'm doing. Like, all of my videos are completely unscripted, you know, which is why sometimes I meander a bit in the subject matter. But, yeah, that Ponderosa pine video I liked because I was standing next to a tree I had never seen before, and I was like reading up on it in my little my tree. I should have brought it. My what's it called? Golden Guides, Tree ID. I don't remember. You know, I'm like flipping through the book, reading up on it, and like, okay, I'm gonna do a video now. Hi. It was just so funny. That was a good trip, though. I haven't seen a lot of this country. You know, like I've been to all of the provinces. No, that's a stinking lie. I haven't been to most of the Maritimes. I haven't been to Newfoundland. I haven't been to Nova Scotia, but I've been to all the rest of the provinces, and I've been to no territories. And I really want to see the North at some point. I mean, I don't mean I want to go polar bear hunting or anything. I want to see the North. I want to go camping in the North, not in February, probably more like June. But I want to say that I've been to Nunavut or the Northwest Territories or the Yukon, you know, one of those. You know, I just, why am I? Oh yeah, because even though I've been to British Columbia and Alberta a ton of times before, well, not Alberta a ton of times. I've been a lot now, but I'd been to Alberta before and I'd been to BC a lot, but I hadn't been to those parts of those provinces. So even in these two provinces that I've done and been there, I was like, wow. You know, if you if you had like a 3-mile high slingshot, this is getting really weird. I don't know why I started this sentence, but anyways, and you put yourself in the slingshot. This is so weird, but I'm gonna finish it. And fired yourself westward from Montreal. Well, let's do it from Newfoundland. A slingshot that was large enough to get you all the way to Victoria. And you're superhuman, so you wouldn't either burn up in the air or die on impact. This is so stupid. What I'm getting at is, from one end of this country to the other, from coast to coast to coast, it is so different. And like, you can get from one different zone to another different zone within a day of drive, with even less than a day of driving, you know? And like, Montreal sits pretty smack dab in the middle of like mixed broadleaf zone, but it's not that far to boreal forest. And boreal forest is epic. Boreal forest is what you think of when you think of Les Voyageurs or the Coureurs de Bois, or I guess in English you would say mountain men, or maybe not mountain men because there's, but like if you think of Ramiers in Canada, you're thinking boreal forest, right? It's the part of the country that you sing epic songs about. It's the part of the country that you think of as the soul of Canada. It's, you know, and we're not the only ones with boreal. I mean, it wraps around the Northern Crown, right? You know, there's boreal in Russia. There's boreal, you know, but the word boreal brings to mind a certain forest, a certain primeval, fabulous, wild forest, and there's so much of it, and it just stretches. But like, you know, it's a huge swath of the country, and above that there's tundra. That's a huge swath of the country, and then you get like ice. But down below all that there's like mixed broadleaf, there's this, there's that, there's a, you know, there's prairie, right? Like a lot of it. And there's these little deserts. Like there's only a couple of them, but they're there. And then you get this wet, fertile, like, you know, rainforest. It's not a real rain. I don't know if it's a real rainforest or not. You know, you say rainforest and everyone automatically thinks of the Amazon, but I mean, the coastal BC is pretty freaking damp, dude. Like if I lived on the coast, my main bushcraft knife would be stainless steel, not carbon steel. I'm saying that as a guy who likes his carbon steel. You know, and if you go all the way out to Newfoundland, where you get these like these majestic rocky coasts with waves crashing. Oh, there's the Bay of Fundy in that part of the country as well. Not Newfoundland, but in that, you know, part of the country with its epic tides. And I just, man, I want to see so much more than I have. I've seen a lot, but I want to see more. There's no accurate English equivalents to voyageur and coureur du bois. Yeah. Black Robe was a good movie, Bomb. Oh yeah, I should get back onto the... Yeah, Paul, you feel like you get better with each video? Yeah. Yeah, I should sketch out what I want to hit at as well, Paul. Because sometimes, excuse me, very often I'll finish a video and think, oh crap, dude, I wanted to say X. So like I should probably just at least write out some notes or something, you know? Hey, Paul retracted a message. What's going on there, Holmes? But yeah, Bomb brought up Black Robe, which, yeah, I like that movie as well. excuse me, walnut. This is from, remember that video I did where I tried to put a wedge into the axe I was redoing? Remember all those videos I did? I blew the 5,000-year-old bog oak to pieces time and time again. Here's a piece of the walnut from that. I don't want to just throw this piece of wood away, but I don't know what the hell to do with it. Like, it's the wrong shape to make another wedge out of. I did use some of it for a wedge. Oh, shoot, man. I did use a little bit of it for a wedge for one of these guys, for a hammer. So I'll probably just keep using it for that because I've got a couple more hammers to handle. Oh, I see, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I want to see, you know, I want to see so much stuff. I would love to to do a trip through like the savannah down in Africa as well. It's funny, there are places that I don't remember ever not wanting to see, like even when I was a kid. I've always wanted to see like Morocco. I've always wanted to see like sub-Saharan Africa. Ever since seeing those little pocket deserts, I kind of want to see a big freaking desert. Man, this is really chewed up. Sorry guys, I've floated off on you there, but I just noticed how chewed up this is. Man, someone was not kind to this hammer. I'm still gonna clean it up, but I don't know. Do you guys think that that's dangerous? Should I grind it to something? I don't want to. Look at how beaten to crap that is. If I was Joe's Neon, I'd be like, look at how beat to crap. I can't do his accent. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right, it's 10:30. I'm gonna do something. I don't know. I'm gonna get ready for bed. I'm just too damn tired. So I guess that's. Sorry, guys. All right. I guess that's definitely all she wrote. I'm gonna go and crawl onto that couch with my girls and fall asleep. So do I do my outro? Yeah, I'll do my outro. Kind of feels weird to do it during a live stream, but anyways, here we go. So if you like what I'm doing, then please, please, please comment down below. Talk amongst yourselves down below. Share the video, subscribe, hit that little bell, ding, and leave me a smiley face. If you don't, smiley thumb. Rats, I almost got to the end. If you don't like what I'm doing, leave me a frowny thumb. Thanks for watching, guys.